So, Berto, it is now 2022, and I thought we would do a review of 2021. What do you say, Berto?
Let's do it.
This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Who are you, Berto?
My name is Humberto Castañeda, and I repair broken styrofoam.
So let's do a full review of 2021. Let's talk about the news. Let's talk about our personal life. Let's talk about maybe some movies and TV shows that we've watched this year. And also, I want to end with a in memoriam of people who have died in 2021. But let's start with, of course, the most important story of 2021. Everyone understands the most important story. It is murder hornets. Let's just get into it. Just kidding. COVID-19. What can we say about 2021 and COVID-19 that is perhaps unique to 2021 as opposed to 2020?
Well, that's part of it, is that to me, the 2 years blended together. So when we think of like 2021, COVID, I'm still thinking, yeah, COVID started and it was terrible. But that was a whole separate year. This year, it was a mix of emotions, right? Because wasn't this the year where you and I were reunited?
Yeah.
In person? You know, that
right. So that's, yeah, to me, in 10 years, I hope what I remember about 2021 primarily is that I was finally able to see in person a lot of people who I had not been able to see for a year. People that I would see all the time. And I know that we could have met up at a park or something, but I don't know. It just didn't feel the same wearing masks. And it was just so great to be fully vaccinated and to meet in person, come to my house. I go to your house, go out, get a bite to eat or something. It was
a lot to deal with while it was going on. Like, to make additional plans, it was difficult. It was mentally challenging.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah. Like, in theory, a lot of things would have been possible. Like, oh, let's get a lot of us together. Let's go to such and such park. We'll stand at a distance. But that is mentally taxing. And you're already dealing with so many things related to the pandemic and trying to get through it. So I think it was just not something a lot of us did. Like, I remember we did go to one drive-by birthday party for a little girl that was friends with one of my daughters. And like, it was weird, right? Like, you're just driving by and you're like, happy birthday.
Yeah. Yeah. The first, I don't know, dozen times that I did those compromises, if you will, COVID compromises.
Yeah.
I was like pretty excited about it because it'd been a long time since I'd seen anyone and it was a break in the routine. But after a while, I was just like, I don't know why, but I hate this. In fact, during, pre-fully vaccinated, I started wondering, am I just reaching that age where I hate people and I don't like friends anymore? Because I just didn't want, because people would invite us to do things like that.
Right.
Or Zoom parties or something. And I just felt like I just did not want to do it. And I thought, well, that's absurd. I mean, I've had no socializing and I've been doing the same gosh darn thing I just remember early 2021, we could still talk about that every day was the same. And although it was a nice routine that me and Stacy had with our animals and the podcast, and I certainly saw you over Zoom a lot, and we did a lot of things podcast wise and otherwise, but I just remember thinking when the pandemic lifts, I wonder if I will just always stay home and never socialize again. Did you have that thought at all?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I definitely had it about work. Like, man, I might, there was a while where I was like, I may never want to go back to a physical building. That has certainly shifted over time, but...
Oh, it has? I mean, have you enjoyed going back to the building?
Well, I haven't been back to a building, but...
Oh, you haven't been back yet? Everyone's still remote.
But one thing that happened is, like, everyone else in my household went back to in person.
Yeah.
And then it got really lonely in my household. That was just me and a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even Zoom.
Yeah.
And then basically I started thinking, wait, now I'm so lonely feeling. Maybe I do want to see people for a bit. But then I realized that the right compromise for me is I would like to be able to work remotely most of the time, but have maybe weekly in-person get-togethers for a meeting or for a workshop or for whatever, or just socializing.
Yeah, for me, I thought that the pandemic and at least the lockdown, or the remote university situation would have relented at some point in 2021. The plan was for it to end, 6 months ago or something, and it just kept getting extended. So I thought that I would be in person at some point, and I just never was. And then I quit full time at Antioch, so I don't know when I'm going to be in person. Anyway, point is that at least that's, I guess, been, well, I guess we'll see what happens, once everything fully lifts, what our lives will look like. But yeah, so I just, some key moments that I remember this year regarding COVID and pandemic and lockdown and stuff quarantining was the first time I saw you. That was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And I was still, another thing I'd recognized about myself was that I had a hard time socializing. I didn't know how to talk to human beings outside of my wife. Yeah. And there's some video of me, early after being fully vaccinated, and I'm watching the video because I'm putting together a 2021 recap video of everything, and I'm like, man, my social skills were really lacking in March. The other thing is the fear I still had. Like when Stacy and I were fully vaccinated, I remember we decided to go out to an old pub that we used to always go to, and it was just even though we're fully vaccinated and the numbers were pretty low back then compared to especially now. Yeah. But I just remember we sat way away from everyone else, but just being around other humans, because the whole association with other humans was everyone is a nuclear bomb, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is crawling with death microbes, and
that was the feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, like Stacy and I'd be walking around the neighborhood pre-vaccination, and we would see our neighbors walking around, and if people got kind of close to us, it just felt like radioactive, So that's what do you remember about this year and COVID?
Yeah, similar thing. So highlights for me, definitely first time I saw you. First time I went back to a movie theater, that was big. That was weird. I was like,
didn't you rent the whole movie theater?
Yeah, that was the first time. But then I actually went to a theater, and you and I went to a theater too. And it's like, whoa. The first time I went back to a restaurant, that was a big deal.
Right.
And then because there had also been a while where I had seen my mom, but only very infrequently. And then we started seeing her a little bit more. I'm like, okay, good. So that was interesting. And then I also reunited with other friends that I hadn't been in person with for the longest time. Those are all very important moments. The weird thing now is, I don't know if you already mentioned it, but like we're not together today.
Right. So Omicron is going real strong. And although some initial reports are saying that the symptoms are likely to be less and the chance of dying in a hospitalization is less, there are so many infections right now. It's higher than it's ever been.
Ever been. Isn't that mind-blowing?
Yeah. There are more cases per day right now in Seattle, in the United States, and I think around the world, by far than it's ever been. This is the biggest spike we've ever had in COVID, SARS-CoV-2 infections. Yeah. Now, part of it is there's more testing, but in Seattle, in the United States, I don't know if that's true because I think it's actually hard to get a test.
And so much is reintegrated, so it's like people are in contact with people constantly now.
Right. You get the new variant that apparently is way more virulent, way more contagious. Catchy. And then you get the fact that it's the holidays, you get the fact that people have pandemic fatigue, and you have what you have. And so, we were supposed to get together today to record, and I just started thinking about all the things that I have going on around this time. And I guess I should say we're recording this before New Year's Eve, the day before New Year's Eve. We're not in 20. I lied earlier. I said it was 2022, but it's actually the 30th of December right now. And I texted you today, and I was just like, because you were going to have a New Year's Eve party, And
You were coming. Many people were coming.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to it because
Same.
One, just to see everyone, and two, to have a party that I'm not hosting, which is kind of rare. Yeah. And then three, that you're actually having a actual party at your house. I mean, you've lived in that house for how many years now?
Right.
And you've never had
5 years.
you've never really had a party. And back in the day, you used to have parties at that old house all the time.
Absolutely.
And they were really epic parties. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. And I had very expensive box seats to see the Kraken play.
What is the Kraken?
It's
a band?
No, it's our hockey team, Seattle hockey team.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know we have a hockey team?
No.
My goodness.
Is that like our Sonics, but it's now the Kraken for hockey?
Yes. If the Sonics were hockey, then yeah.
And we still had a team.
And it's in the new Climate Pledge Arena, which is supposed to be like this really fantastic arena. Yeah, we had box seats to sit in, like the best seats in the house. It was going to be, and then there was a party on New Year's Day that we were going to go to, and I was going to see you tonight. I mean, there were so many things.
There's a lot of activities,
and it just started to hit me that wait. So if there was ever a time since SARS-CoV-2 infected its first American or first person that came to American soil, now is definitely the time to be quarantining. And and the science is there that it may indicate, who knows what the next variants will be like, but the hope is that the normal course of this sort of thing is that pandemics peter out because everyone gets infected and then everyone has antibodies and then it just dies. The virus becomes extremely subdued, if you will. And if ever there was a time for that to happen, it's now. With Omicron just like ravaging through the world, that it could fizzle out within a month, or even shorter. And so there's a chance that the pandemic will literally be over in a month, and you and I, Berto, in our lifetime will never have to quarantine again. There's a good chance that we'll be quarantining for the rest of our lives, depending, because who knows what the next virus is going to be like. But there's a chance that we have 1 month to go, and we've been doing this for 21 months. And if I did something stupid this weekend and got infected, I just thought, what a shame. All 21 months of hard work trying to not get infected, and then all the vaccines and all the work and all the sacrifices just to blow it all in a irresponsible New Year's Eve evening. I just thought,
last minute.
Yeah, let's just let's make the sacrifices. It's like that last mile in a marathon. Like, don't give up now. We're almost to the finish line, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I texted you and I was just like, Berto, I don't know about this weekend. And then we started going back and forth, and then we shut everything down. You canceled your party. We canceled in-person podcasting.
Yep.
I canceled my Kraken game. I canceled my New Year's Day party. Like, everything went crashing down today.
It's funny because I think we were both thinking the same thing, but we were sort of hesitant. So I first texted you saying, hey, so maybe, because it's icy. The roads are icy on top of everything else.
Oh, right.
And so I said, hey, should we maybe podcast during the day instead of evening, because I don't want to drive at night. And then you're like, yeah, that's probably right. So then we're like, all right. And then you asked me, so have you been in contact with anyone that's got Omicron? And I was like, And, I was at a small, but a Christmas gathering at my mom's. It was the smallest one we've ever had, but still, there were people there. And the people that were there, know people that are currently sick with COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now
you didn't mention that.
Well, because they weren't in contact with them, but they were relatives of them.
Oh, so they hadn't been in contact with them.
But who knows? Like, maybe they lied about the timeline, or not lied, but well, I did see them a week ago, but I don't think who knows, right? Either way, I don't know. But now I feel fine. No one I know directly is sick, and it's been since the 25th, but still. And so you asked me that, and I said, yeah, I don't know. And then I said, do you think I'm crazy for having this party?
Yeah.
And then you're like, yeah, maybe. And then that was the domino. And then
yeah, because your house is, it's a good sized family home, but it's not ginormous.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to be in close contact.
Yeah, and the amount of people that were coming, of course, there'd be all the kids around.
Oh, we're going to be like, I love you. Happy New Year's. Come here, give me a kiss, you big galoot.
And it's so cold out, no one's going to want to be outside. The windows aren't going to be open.
We're not going to be hanging out outside.
Yeah, so we're going to do a New Year's Eve party in a month or two when this whole thing lives. Yeah.
This will be, it would have been a festering ground for sure.
Yeah. So I know we've only gotten to just one topic of 2021, but I think it's a pretty big one. But
big one, yeah.
Let's go into more about COVID-19 before we get into other topics here. So 2021 U.S. deaths by COVID, Berto. How many people?
Oh, only in 2021? I'm going to go 500,000.
Close, 400,000. Okay. Similar to 2020, actually. It's about 780,000 total. It's almost 1 million Americans dead by this virus, which works out to be about 0.2% of the population. Which when I saw that percentage, I was like, well, that's still a shit ton of people, almost 1 million people. But I thought, 0.2%. Because there were worries that this was going to kill like 2%. Is going to kill... say 10 million Americans.
Right.
But so on some level, we did a lot
because
reduce.
Early on, it seemed like the death rate was about 2% of infected. And if everyone ended up getting infected.
Right, exactly. Now, when you compare this to World War II, in which a lot of Americans died, a lot fewer Americans died than, say, Soviets or Germans or Japanese or Chinese. But when you think about just comparatively to all the memorials and all the movies and all the stories and all the importance of World War II is to the United States of America, how many U.S. deaths did we experience in that time?
In World War II?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Just from U.S.? Man, I'm going to say 500,000.
About 419,000.
Really?
And of course, our population was a lot fewer back then.
Right, so percentage-wise, it was higher.
It was 0.3% of the population.
And it was a lot of young people.
Yeah, and it was spread out over 3 years. World War I, how many people died? Much more, a very deadly war, in the European theater.
1 million?
Nope, 100,000-ish.
Oh, because U.S., right? U.S. was still...
Yeah, we came in pretty late.
So that makes sense.
0.1% of the population. But, so similar rates of Americans died. And a lot of people in World War I that died might have actually died from what we call the Spanish flu.
Disease, yeah.
So, by percentage dead, hardest hit states in the United States, Berto, since the SARS-CoV-2 began.
Okay, well, I would say, I'm just going to throw some out. I know New York was early on pretty hard hit. So
yeah, but they're more in the middle.
Oh, middle. Okay. California?
Nope, kind of in the middle.
Florida?
I mean, in terms of numbers, a lot of...
But you're talking about percentages.
Yeah, I'm talking about percentage. Yeah.
All right. Louisiana.
Yep, they're number 2.
Wow.
At about 0.4%.
Wow. Arkansas.
No, I mean they're up there, but not top 5.
Alabama.
Yep, Alabama's up there as well. I'll just give you the rest. Mississippi. So Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, they're all right next to each other. They're all about 0.4 compared to what seems to be about 0.2, 0.25. New Jersey, which is close to New York, pretty hard hit percentage-wise, and Arizona as well.
Wow.
So Arizona's kind of weird because it's like New Jersey makes sense, like highly condensed bunch of people. Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, you have a pretty high Republican contingent, and also perhaps more difficulty accessing healthcare. So there's that factor. But Arizona, you're like, well, why would Arizona be so hard hit percentage wise? I'm guessing because of lack of vaccination rate, but it's hard to know. There's a lot of places that don't have very high vaccination rates. Anyway, so Washington death rate percentage wise, where are we, bro?
You were saying 0.2 overall.
0.25, yeah.
I'm going to go 0.18.
0.1.
0.1, nice.
Best states death rate wise. I think, Washington is third, which is really cool, right? When you think about it.
Oregon.
Oregon is in the top 7, yeah.
And let's see.
There's two states at the very top that one makes sense to me. The other one, I'm like, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Massachusetts.
Nope. They were kind of hard hit actually, because that whole area was pretty hard hit.
Okay. Well, then I'm gonna go Montana.
Nope. Hawaii.
Hawaii. Okay.
Because of the isolation and the I think high level of people getting vaccinated.
Yeah, for Montana, I was thinking isolation as well.
and then isolation Vermont. So Vermont is pretty isolated, and these rates are 0.07. So rounding up to 0.1, but 0.07. I think Vermont is also pretty vaccine compliant and also a little isolated. Other top states, we have Washington, Oregon, Maine, New Hampshire, which makes sense, right next to Vermont, and Utah for some reason.
Oh, right. Utah, really interesting.
Yeah, not really quite sure what's going on there. Deaths worldwide.
Overall number, I'm gonna go 3 million.
5.5 million.
5.5. Wow.
It could be a lot more. I've heard some estimates saying it might even be double that,
depending how you're counting it.
Yeah, because it's hard to tell always why, and because people die all the time, and was it a COVID death or not? And then you have governments that are perhaps underreporting, and so 5 to 10 million. Death rate by country. Who has the worst, Berto?
Worst death rate by country.
There's two areas of the world that have the highest numbers.
I mean, Europe was hit so hard initially. Maybe Italy?
No.
That was one of the early countries.
But close to that area.
Okay. France?
No, other direction. So it's across the sea there. From
okay.
You have like North Macedonia, Bulgaria, those Bosnia, Hungary, Montenegro, those Chechnya.
So that whole region was affected really hard.
Yeah, and their rates are in the area of like
0.3 or something.
0.4.
0.4, wow.
But if you think about it, when I hear that number, I'm like 0.4, that's high compared to 0.2.
I mean, it's double.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're not talking about like 3%. I mean, the way that I would have figured some country out there would have like 5% dead from COVID, but we're still talking 0.4.
I think because there is an upper bound to the deadliness of the virus, like it can be deadly even if you don't do stuff about it, but it's only as deadly as it can be. Right.
Well, it's only as deadly as it is, and healthcare factors and quarantine.
Like if you let Ebola run rampant, right? So now you're looking at like a 95% death rate. But but not this virus. This virus doesn't do that.
Well, until I looked at the stats today, I just thought that really hard hit areas were looking at much higher percentage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying 0.4 is anything to shake a stick at. I'm just saying that it's much more encouraging, I suppose.
And that's 0.4 of the whole population, not 0.4 of the infected.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Because everything comes into play when we think about these sorts of things, not only healthcare, individual factors, risk factors, but also
age groups, all that stuff.
But the hardest hit country, do you have another area that you could take a guess at?
In Africa?
Nope.
No? In Asia? No, it wasn't China. It was...
This kind of hits close to home.
Okay. In South America?
Yeah. So we have Peru with 0.6.
Oh, wow.
They're number one.
Holy crap.
At this point, who knows if, we're going to see a different situation.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That one is a little surprising. Not because, of course, it's an underdeveloped region and everything, but I don't know. I guess I figured, because in Colombia, the response early on was aggressive.
Now,
although then they did have problems.
Their case fatality is 9%. Yemen is close to 20% case fatality, but it's hard to tell because it's amount of confirmed cases versus how many deaths you have. So, the stats are in Peru, you have 9% case fatality, but you only have 0.6% deaths, overall. So was it that they just had, genetically or healthcare wise were just really susceptible to the deaths, or was it that a lot of the cases that occurred just were never confirmed, and it seems like that's more likely. Brazil 0.3, Colombia 0.3, U.S. like I said about 0.2 or 0.25. Vaccination, most vaccinated states, Berto, including territories. I'm going to say United States.
Oh, interesting. Okay. It's going to be surprising, but I bet you Alaska has high vaccination rate.
No.
Okay.
Wrong. There's a lot. There's a lot of Republicans in Washington.
I know, but I just figured there's a few surprising things up there. For example, they have social welfare.
Yeah, but they don't have a lot of cases because they're isolated.
Yeah.
But
okay. I mean, I imagine Washington's pretty high up.
They are, but they're like 10th or something with,
with
New York 68. New York is 71. So double vaccinated, Washington 68, New York 71. Who else are you going to guess?
California.
California is not on the list. A lot of anti-vaccinated.
Okay. We're going to go back to Vermont.
Yep. Number 1, 77%.
Nice. New Hampshire.
New Hampshire is not on there. Top 10.
Okay. Utah.
Nope.
No?
A lot of Republicans in Utah. Think Democratic areas.
Right, but I was going by the fact that they had high or low.
But the same with Alaska. That's the same.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on with Utah, if it's just isolated. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, well, Massachusetts. I'll throw that one back in.
Yep, 75.
Okay.
A lot of Democrats in Massachusetts.
Yeah. New Jersey.
New Jersey, 70%.
Okay, pretty good. So there's a lot of East Coast, northern East Coast.
Yeah, Rhode Island,
Oregon,
Connecticut. Oregon's right behind us because Washington always beats Oregon and everything. Just joking. Oregon is 66%. It's still pretty sad though when you think like Washington, Oregon, it's 2/3. Puerto Rico, 77%.
Oh, that's high.
Guam, 75%. Maryland, Virginia, around 70%.
Oh, and Hawaii. Hawaii was high or no?
No, Hawaii's.
Oh, it's just their isolation that helped them.
Yeah, least.
Weird.
And perhaps their quarantining practices. I'm not sure what the policies
least were. Vaccinated. Let's go back to what are some of the ones I said? Louisiana.
No, I mean that's low, but not as low as these. I have
Alabama.
The bottom. Yeah, Alabama 48% double vaxxed.
Florida.
No, they actually have a pretty big Democratic.
Okay.
I'm not saying that all Democrats are. But there's a high correlation between blue states and vaccination states.
It's not Democrats' fault. Like this happened to become a politicized issue. Like somehow getting vaccines was seen as a Democratic crazy thing. So
right.
It's weird.
Yeah.
What else? Oh yeah. So like maybe Mississippi.
Yeah, 48%.
Yeah. Oh, 48. So it's less than half. Wow.
Yeah.
What's the lowest?
Alabama is 48. Well, Idaho's 46. And Wyoming's 47. Idaho's 46%, and yet they don't have a high infection rate because
it's so sparse.
Yeah, and death rate because it's so sparse.
I have a friend who's got a lot of family in Idaho, and she was very terrified of going to visit during the holidays because. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of weird. There's very few people.
So the other thing I want to talk about, I guess, is just getting the vaccine itself. The first one I got. You just never know if you're allergic to it or something.
Right. It's a little scary.
Yeah, it was a little scary. I think with both 1 and 2, I had flu-like symptoms the next day. With 3, I had nothing for some reason. But
yeah, and for me, I was scared because, I had been having all my own health issues, and I was thinking, oh gosh, the last thing I want is another variable. And then I'm not going to know if I'm feeling bad because of the vaccine or because of my own shit. It's like,
God, that's the worst. The other thing I'll say is that I did get sick about, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months ago.
So you don't know if you had COVID?
No, I did. I tested.
And you didn't have
it as negative, and I didn't have.
Was it like a flu?
It was like any other time of my life. If I would have had this, I would have thought, I think I'm fighting a virus successfully right now.
Oh, I remember this. I remember you telling me, like you were sick at one point.
I had like that warm feeling in your lungs, where it kind of feels like it's raw on the inside of your lungs. But it was barely there, and it would only kind of show up at night. And boy, was I terrified, and I kind of went into denial for a while. I'm like, oh, everything's fine. Cause I would only
travel to Africa because of this.
All right. Enough about COVID. Let's take a break, and when we get back, let's talk about everything else from 2021. What do you say, Berto?
Let's do it.
Hey, deserving listeners, as you all know, I am constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. Well, one of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp. If you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to betterhelp.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the promo code Kirk because you get 10% off your first month, and it really helps us out. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist, which is great because you deserve it. And I know also that it can be hard to find a good fit, find the right one for you. Well, one of the options available in terms of your shopping is to go to betterhelp.com/Kirk. I've been told you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message your counselor at any time. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. I've also been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy, and you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide. So go to betterhelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month today. All right, Berto, we're back from the break. Let's do an OPP.
OPP.
An old patron praise for those people who became patrons in September of 2019 and have stayed loyal, dedicated, awesome patrons ever since. Awesome. Through thick and thin, through pandemics and otherwise, they have remained patrons. Because it's one thing to become a patron, it's another thing to stay a patron.
Yeah.
We got Raghild from Nordland, Norway. We have Ivana from BA. What do you think BA country code is?
Belarus. Baltic.
Bosnia.
Bosnia.
And Herzegovina.
Okay.
Shelby from Bainbridge Island here near Seattle. Anna from New Jersey. Corinne from God knows where. McWitt from God knows where. Jenna from God knows where. Carolyn from Louisville, Kentucky. A from God knows where. Rochelle from Santa Monica, California. Beautiful Santa Monica.
I love Santa Monica.
Yeah. Serena from Seattle. And Sarah from Sumter, South Carolina. Thank you so much for becoming patrons and staying patrons this whole entire time. All right, Berto, other news events from 2021 that you can recall?
Man, okay. This was a lame Oscars year. The Oscar show itself was lame.
Yeah.
I was so
and we couldn't have our Oscar party.
And we couldn't have an Oscar party. But the show was like, they tried to do this mix of, virtual and some in-person thing. But I think they totally missed the point because they could have had people recorded on different locations, kind of on their own, like isolated or whatever. But the segments were really boring. And they had these long, drawn-out speeches. Almost everyone was giving long, drawn-out speeches.
Yeah.
Super bad. And no one knew the movies. That was the other problem. No one knew the movies, and they barely explained the movies.
Well, that and most of the movies that would have been notable Best Picture nominees were delayed in their release. So... Yeah. a movie like Nomadland won Best Picture and Best Director. And I have to say, as someone who sat through Nomadland, I don't understand why it won Best Picture. I find it to be an interesting movie.
Right.
But I did you see Nomadland?
No.
Oh, goodness. I mean, it's interesting, especially the first, I would say, half hour. And then there's a few moments, but it's basically like a recreation of a transient worker, someone who
it's kind of a slog of the second half. Is kind of a slog, you were saying?
Well, the whole thing's a slog, but the first half an hour of the slog is at least interesting enough that
I see.
It was like it was like watching a reality TV show or something. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's what it's like to live like. That's interesting. You know, like there are some YouTube channels where guys will camp in their van in a cold place in Alaska or something, and it's not particularly compelling, and I don't think it should win Best Picture at the Oscars, but I'll still watch it because it's just a sort of peek into the lifestyle of someone. And that's what Nomadland was like. And, there's some poignant moments, and of course, it raises awareness for a certain group of people in the United States, which, I'm all for. But in terms of Best Picture, I did not understand that. And the other movies, Mank, I mean, I could not sit. Did you watch Mank?
Mank?
Mank.
Oh, right. No, isn't that about Walt Disney or?
No, it's about Citizen Kane and
Citizen Kane, right?
Yeah.
Right. No, I didn't watch that.
Oh, interesting as a period piece, and very well acted, and interesting.
Was it about the making of?
Yeah, it's about the writer, and his sort of. It's a fictionalized account of the writer and how he moves through that world and stuff, and it's interesting enough, but I didn't think it was great. I didn't see The Father. I saw The Sound of Metal. You and I watched that. The Trial of Chicago. Yeah. The Trial of Chicago 7 was also nominated. That was okay, but not amazing. Judas and the Black Messiah, I thought, was an Oscar movie that should have won. I thought that was absolutely Oscar bait right there. Anyway, so what else can you tell us about 2021, bro?
Well, the invasion of the Congress, of the Capitol on January 6th.
Right.
That was like watching a 9/11 type thing happen in front of your eyes. That was super surreal.
Yeah, so surreal.
Much so that
quote unquote patriots trying to take over the government, fueled by lies and a classic dictator move. I mean, does no one study world history or the history of the United States? Like, this is what dictators do.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
they say whatever they need to say to retain power, and as democracies lose power to dictatorship, this is the playbook.
Yeah, man. So what was coming to mind to me is when I left Colombia, I was 15, and I left in 1990, and it was at a time where the country was sieged by the narcos, by Pablo Escobar and his posse.
Meaning
so
they
much so that
took to guns in the streets and were
absolutely and as
killing
you know,
imprisoning,
yeah,
politicians and stuff, right?
And kidnapping normal people and stuff. And as you know from the Narcos show, he had run for office. So at one point he was actually trying to get in the Senate, right? He probably would have run for president, but at the time that didn't work. But they had lots of paid off people, both in the in the government and then the police, all over the place. So much so that when he got finally captured and arrested, and the first time anyways, he decided his own imprisonment. So he got to build his own jail. He built his own jail in the mountains.
Right.
And it was like a palace.
The interesting thing about January 6th in the United States was how if just a few players would have played along or succumbed, Mike Pence, a federal judge, chief of police, a general with a contingent of the military. Like, if someone just a few people would have played along with what was going on, our democracy would be over and we would have a dictator.
I know. And so I was sitting there thinking about that day going, wow, I left and I was so happy to be in a country where, yeah, there's a lot of problems. Yeah, we've been bullies. Yeah, all these things. At the same time, there is voting, and we have, people change every 4 years. And
But not only, I mean, I'm sure in Colombia they had a constitution and a fairness, process. The difference is the institutions and the people have to uphold democracy. That's what happened.
That's right.
There was like I said, if just a few people had gone along with it, our democracy would have been in shatter, would have been in all sorts of pieces. And so it's all about institutions. It's all about norms. It's all about like, these are the rules. And even though you're probably not going to be punished if you break the rules, there's a reason why we have these rules, because this is it's sort of like in your house, you're living with your family. You could decide you're never going to do another chore. You could just be like, everyone else is going to have to do all the chores. And
especially if you're an adult, hey, you got a lot of leeway in life.
Yeah. I'm just going to stop taking my kids to the doctor. I'm going to stop helping them with their schoolwork. I'm just going to do that. And you can't stop me. And that's just how, but everything breaks down when you don't follow the norms. You don't follow like a higher calling of, but that's not fair. That isn't okay. That will probably lead to bad things, but it will lead to good things if I don't, because I won't have to do those things tomorrow. That sort of short-sightedness around government and institutions and the Constitution and the law. And, it was pretty frightening.
So if we take this shortcut right now, we might get our way and the consequences are not clear.
Yeah.
So that happened.
So along those lines, this year has been devoid of Donald Trump and his tweets, which...
That was a big, big mental change for the positive for me, because I was so obsessed on Facebook, debating every little thing. And then this whole year, I haven't had almost any social political interactions.
Yeah. And to be clear to the Republican listeners out there, of which I know there are some of you because I've surveyed you, there's nothing wrong with wanting small government per se. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be fiscally responsible. There's nothing wrong with having a strong sense of law and order dedication or something. There's nothing wrong with upholding the Second Amendment, I suppose, because that is the law of the land. There's nothing wrong with picketing for pro-life or something, but there is something wrong with dismantling the government and lying. And you look at someone like Johnson in the UK, who is supposed to be kind of like a Donald Trump of Britain. There's certain things that he won't do that Trump did. So
there are lines that he won't cross that other people did cross.
So you can be a Republican, you can have certain stances on things, but history will show that Donald Trump was a huge threat to everyone, not just Democrats, not just the libs, okay? And probably resulted in, and will continue, millions of, or at least hundreds of thousands of Americans dead because they were convinced of his silliness around, anyway, point is
well, you see that he's now himself unable to stop the avalanche he created, right? Because I don't know if you've seen the clips of him basically saying, well, you should get the vaccine. I invented the vaccine. We should take credit for the vaccine. People booing, other right-wing commentators trying to correct the record there and apologize for those statements. It's a runaway train that's like, oh, man. And anyways, long story short, yes, that was a mess.
Kamala Harris, first Black American vice president, first South Asian American vice president. That's a huge, huge, huge deal.
It's incredible, yeah.
What else from 2021?
Oh, by the way, have you seen Don't Look Up yet?
No, I heard a review of it that wasn't very glowing. Have you seen it?
I'm halfway through it. I'm enjoying it a lot. I don't know if the second half is enjoyable. I actually think you would enjoy it from what I've seen so far.
Okay.
But what I'll say is, without giving anything away.
Well, it's an analogy to global warming
and the pandemic, and it's like so close to home. Maybe that's why people are having a visceral reaction, because it's like before 2020, if I had seen it, I would have actually thought it's too over the top. But now I'm like, yeah, actually. Anyways, it's that kind of thing. Yeah, other events this year. Well, we pulled out of Afghanistan.
Right.
And that was chaotic, but also in the end sort of positive. I had very mixed feelings at the time.
I still have mixed feelings. I mean, my friend Wyatt died fighting in Afghanistan, and you just have to ask, like, was it pointless? Was it all for nothing? It's hard to say. History will tell. But
yeah.
So, and then how they evacuated was botched, apparently. So,
but it's a hard thing because, like,
the thing is we should never have been there in the first place. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, on the left, there's a lot of like, well, we shouldn't be in all these wars. On the libertarians, they're like, we shouldn't be fighting foreign wars. Then there's a wing on both, like, right and left, that says, no, we should probably go and do some war fighting for some reasons. Fine. But the thing is, Biden promised he would do this, and he did it. And now I think
Obama talked about doing it for a long time.
Obama do it. Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those weird things that in the moment when it was happening, I was super pissed. I'm like, how could they do it so recklessly? And look at what's happening now and stuff. With the benefit of time, I'm thinking, well, I don't actually know if it would have happened any better. And
yeah, it's hard to know.
It's hard to know, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that
and what's the alternative? We're there another 20 years.
We're there indefinitely.
Yeah. Like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
I mean, we did, and it wasn't like we just went in there and did nothing. I mean, the whole time there were efforts to build up the economy, to build up the military, to build up their democracy. There were efforts, and I'm sure there are experts that would be able to fill in the details on that. And it just apparently just didn't take hold. Maybe there were some mistakes that were made. I'm sure there were, but anyway, I know enough about it to know it. I know nothing about it. What else happened in 2021?
And then similar reversal, we rejoined the climate agreement.
Right.
Which is I know that the climate agreement is totally under the mark, but it's a big symbol that we're like, okay, we are part of this solution, or, we need to be part of the solution. So I felt like it was symbolically an important thing to do. Yeah.
I was happy, but also like, okay, yeah, but, like, what else are you going to do? It's like that spouse of yours that's abusive, and they turn around and they're like, oh, I'm sorry for calling you, a B word last night. And you're like, okay, that's what else? You got more? You got more to tell me? Because this has been 10 years of you abusing me physically and emotionally. So on one hand, I'm like, okay, great, but show me the money, show me, more, like, not only the United States, but the entire world. This is on everyone. This is, we can do all we can, and we should, but without the rest of the world. And there are other parts anyway, so we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, it was nice to see, but
it's an important minimum thing that needed to happen.
Yeah, but I worry that it's like recycling for Americans, that people feel like they're doing things when they're doing nothing to stop the problem. What else happened in 2021, bro?
We had the Olympics, which is weird. I think it's the least I've ever watched an Olympics.
Yeah. I have a hard time understanding how to watch the Olympics, because it's on 24/7.
I know, right? And it's all weird hours.
Yeah, and I'm like, what I wish is that a YouTube channel and there would, and some clips I would catch on YouTube. Some clips would sort of rise to the top. Like there was that one, those high jumpers that tied.
Yeah.
There was that scene. There were a couple other scenes, but I wish that someone would come along and curate, like, here's half an hour of action a day for you to watch, like the best stuff. Maybe not truncated, but like, here's a 15-minute race that you got to watch. You know, I feel like
it is a missed opportunity for the owners of the rights, which I don't know this year was NBC or who knows, where it's like, okay, what if you had two channels? What if you had your normal channel where it's whatever's live right now, and then you had another thing, either literally on TV or like you're saying on YouTube or online or somehow, where it is curated, and maybe that existed, but I didn't know about it.
Right, maybe it existed, but I did not. I share years ago, decades ago, I kind of gave up on that whole thing because I remember really trying. Because back in the day, like in the 80s, I remember we would watch the Olympics. I think partially because whoever covered it in the United States, they wouldn't show everything. You know, They would show, you know, like I remember in 1980 when our hockey team beat the Russians, you know, the Soviets, they showed that, you know, and that, I remember watching that. It was a big deal, you know, but now it's like they show everything and you're like, I know. It just becomes too much, you know.
So I think we, in the 80s also, same thing in Colombia, because there weren't that many stations. And so they had to pick their battles. So in Colombia, there was, we would see it, but it was curated. We would see specific events, and maybe that's a case of the less you know, you know?
Yeah. Should also be noted that the Paralympics were also delayed and held this year.
Oh, okay.
What else can we talk about? Well, we can talk about climate change, Berto, just in general. Like there were
some disastrous events around the globe this year.
Yeah, I mean, I've read the reports from climate scientists saying that they can't say that any one record-breaking wildfire is the result of climate change, but what they can say is that when you pull everything together, it looks like when you put more energy into a system, you know, more heat energy.
They had wildfires in Siberia.
U.S., Greece. There were more floods, record-setting drought in the United States, the Texas snowstorm, the monsoons in India and Nepal. So there's that. And of course, we all returned to work, so carbon emissions increased this year. And so and there's some wins. China agreed to discontinue financing coal-fired power plants overseas. You know, little things here and there, but again, we're still on the rise in terms of emissions year to year, or at least sustaining our emissions. What else happened in 2021, Berto?
There were some space launches, you know, by private companies. There was
What do you think about that? You know, because at first with Elon Musk, like everyone's celebrating him, and then when other people started doing it, the Jeff Bezos and such, the public just turned on these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what do you think's going on
there? That is fascinating. In fact, I remember I saw a thread on Facebook that I couldn't help but comment on, because I think it's when Jeff Bezos was doing it, and everyone was like, you know, ragging on it because he's a billionaire and he's spending all this money on this thing. And
it's like, where was this with Elon Musk? You know
right.
I mean? Elon Musk has been doing this for 5-10 years.
Yeah. I'm of a split feeling. Like, on the one hand, I actually think some of these billionaires are not necessarily good, nice people. You know, they don't treat their workers very nicely. Elon Musk, I've seen way too many videos now about how he's probably mostly a charlatan, but that had some good early breaks financially, and then now, just he's doing well because of the Tesla stock, but then he overpromises and underdelivers constantly on everything else he's talking about. But that said, I also think it's important for some set of people to be pushing the envelope, and if no one is doing it, I feel like the human race wouldn't. That's the thing. You need the chaos, right? You need the chaos of genetics. You need the chaos of humans thriving and everyone trying to do something. But if no one is trying to push the envelope, then we get stuck in a rut. So I do appreciate that some small subset of humans are like, okay, well, what if we did try to get to Mars or try to live out in space? I don't know that it's going to work out so well in any short amount of time. Yeah.
Again, history will show, there's a chance that with all of that there'll be more players. Maybe there'll be in 20 years, there'll be 50 private companies that are putting a bunch of stuff in space and creating more debris. And about the possibility that we will not be able to have satellites anymore, right? Because of
I heard about this. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we've known about this. We've known about this for decades. That the more crap you put, and then of course, was it China that like blew up one of their satellites?
Yes,
and
just recently.
Yeah, these satellites. Just in case you don't know, satellites orbiting the Earth are moving at breakneck speeds. I very, very fast. I don't know how fast.
Speed of sound or something. It's like really fast.
I think way faster than speed of sound. Let me just look it up. Speed of satellite in orbit. 7,000 miles per hour. So
when they crash on anything,
I think the speed of sound is 700. Speed of sound is miles per hour. Miles per hour is about almost 800. So this is 10 times the speed of sound.
Almost 10 times.
Yeah. So you have things moving around the Earth at that speed, and then when you say drop a wrench when you're outside, you now have a wrench that is moving around the planet at 10 times the speed of sound. And not all satellites are going in the same direction. So you essentially you don't have intersections. You don't have stoplights. Nope. So everything is just flying around. And there are cases where satellites actually hit each other. And especially when you create thousands of little pieces, when you blow up a satellite or when two satellites collide, what you have, eventually, it's almost inevitably going to happen unless we have some way of dealing with it, which we have sort of some science and some plans to, but no efforts, no political will, because it'd be like one country saying, we're going to clean up your carbon emissions. Do you know what I mean? Like no country step forward and saying like, we're going to be we're going to just pay for the janitoring of the entire space. So what could happen is that one satellite hits another satellite, which creates 1,000 little bullets. Those 1,000 bullets hit 3 other satellites. Yeah. Those debris kill 10 satellites, and then you have this swarm of bullets that are going at 10 times the speed of sound around the Earth. You can no longer put anything in orbit, and you can't leave. As humans, we can't go to Mars anymore.
We're trapped.
We can't get to the ISS. We can't do anything because there's this swarm of, and there are theories that say that, why aren't there aliens? Because there are so many planets in the universe, right. And especially, if you just consider our galaxy and just our local area in our galaxy, how come there aren't aliens everywhere? Well, one possibility is that every civilization eventually reaches this point where they pollute their orbit such that they can't even broadcast very well off of their planet, and so everyone's just stuck in this cage that they create for themselves, and then eventually you blow yourselves up with nuclear bombs or something, and then no more aliens. So for me, I think that when Jeff Bezos or Bill Shatner and the other people go to space, I think it just highlights the white maleness of our capitalistic, racist society. That I don't think, Jeff Bezos is not breaking the law. Jeff Bezos is not doing anything that, if I had billions or trillions of dollars and I had the opportunity, I'd probably go to space as well. It's, the desire to go to space is something of our generation. It's just it's cool. It's like, I want to experience that. It's like going to the Grand Canyon. If
you couldn't pay me enough money, you couldn't become a billionaire, give me $1 billion and tell me to go to space.
Why?
I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to parachute. I don't want to do any of that stuff.
Oh, but too scary or something?
I will say, I don't want to do that. But I will say that if they succeed in having some sort of little space station or something, humans aren't meant to last in there.
No, there's all sorts of bad things. The people
we need to skip the human part and be like, look, humans are this is our planet. This is what we do. We need to have machines with our best of our culture and everything. go off into space.
Yeah, and like the Mars lander. But the thing about the hatred against Jeff Bezos that I find to be a little simplistic is that if you have a problem with Jeff Bezos, then you have a problem with the American capitalistic system.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't hate Jeff Bezos for doing what all businesses do. He's just a very obvious example of it. You know what I mean?
Well, we're posting on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram on our iPhones.
Well, even those are those are also like obvious. I'm talking like, your local grocery store has probably some white male at the top of that pyramid.
But it does. Whole Foods is owned by Amazon.
Well, no, I'm just talking about, I'm not, again, other examples, but I'm just saying like, this is the American system. Exploitation of labor has been going on since the beginning of our nation. So if you have a problem with Jeff Bezos, turn your target sights on the American system. Jeff Bezos is just an obvious example of what our system creates. And yelling at him does nothing. You have to yell at the system. You have to yell at the laws and the regulations. We also have to,
it's tough though, because this is what my point I was trying to make is that like, we run a risk, right? Because we love the fact that we were able to order everything through Amazon during the pandemic. We love that we could do so on our iPhones, and we love that we had the internet to do so, and that we had fast cable speeds, and that we had all these things. We love it. And that we could post about it on the social networks. So when we say, well, we don't want any of this, we actually want to like have only mom and pop shops and no technology. Okay, that's a very different world. Now, is there a balance that could be struck? Yeah, I think there could be. I think we're a little too far on the laissez-faire capitalist side.
Well, a very simple regulation that we have some political will around is minimum wage and worker standards.
Exactly.
You raise the amount of pay and you lower the amount of work. You give them more breaks, this kind of thing. You make it illegal to have contract workers under certain circumstances, and there are efforts, and there are all laws that are, but you just have to ramp them up. But what that does, Berto, is it raises prices. So
well, that's fine, but it's not like these people, these billionaires, they wouldn't, because one of the things is, well, then we'll get no innovation. Well, no. You're not going to tell me that someone's going to be like, wait. You're telling me that instead of 40 billion, I'm only going to have 30 billion?
Right.
Screw that then. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like we didn't have innovation 50 years ago when the income disparity was nothing like it is today.
Right.
So, yeah, we've, people always, if you give them enough incentive, of which there easily could be.
Of course.
Anyway, what other things that I know nothing about should I spout off about, Berto?
Well, I made a discovery.
That happened in 2021.
That happened in 2021. Well, first of all, Pixar put out the first, not Pixar, sorry, Disney Animation Studios put out the first Colombian-themed animated movie.
Yeah, did you see it?
Ever. I did.
Is it good?
It's a Disney movie about Colombia. What do you mean? It's a movie. It's got characters in it.
From the previews, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work out.
But you can't tell, because from the previews, I didn't want to watch Coco. I didn't want to watch Moana. I didn't want to watch... There's a lot of movies I didn't want to watch from the previews.
Oh, maybe I heard reviews too.
And then there were some of the best. You should see Rotten Tomatoes, 93% reviewers, 95% audience.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Encanto. Oh, did you like it? Did you like it?
It's a movie by Disney. It's got characters in it, and it's Colombian.
Yeah.
But what do you...
Well, why do you think it got 93% on Rotten Tomatoes then, Berto?
Well, because it's got plot development, sort of, and music that happens.
No, but seriously, why do you think this movie that might not be that great got such high reviews?
It's a good question, dude. Listen, do you think I didn't want to love this movie? It's my people's, right?
Yeah.
When I saw the list of people that actually created it in the, the director, writer, everything, I kept looking for Colombian names or even just Latin sounding names. I feel like one of the things that happened here, and it's not unique, like they did this with almost every Disney movie, right? They look at a culture and they're like, hey, let's make a movie sort of set in this culture. But it is like someone that read a book and then did a book report about that thing. It's not immersed in it enough. So for me, and maybe it's not universal, but for me, it didn't feel that authentic. It felt like a whole bunch of, gringos.
That's interesting because Coco was also developed by...
But Coco was Pixar, and they hired a lot of Mexican musicians to do the music, like well-known Mexican musicians to do the music, and they paid a lot of attention to detail. Now, listen, I'm also not Mexican, so maybe if we ask Mexican person.
Well, yeah, but I've heard from Mexicans that there's a lot of little sort of Easter eggy Mexican cultural cornerstones.
Well, and this one does too. So like if you're just checking off a list, and that's kind of how it feels. If you're just checking off a list, it's like, there's an arepa. Ooh, there's a, tamale.
Well, if the movie had been better, would you feel differently? If it had a better story? Because I heard the story.
Only the story is what matters.
I heard the story was kind of boring.
That's ultimately all that matters is the story. Look, do I really care about Dia de los Muertos in Coco? No. I'm not even into the mariachi culture. I don't like any of that stuff. I loved Coco.
Right. It's the heart. It's the what?
Yeah.
Do you care about the characters?
Do I care about the Maui mythology? No. Moana had an awesome story. And so for me, it is the story. The music also, even though it was Lin-Manuel Miranda, was poppy. It was certainly well crafted. The only memorable song, honestly, is the one song that was actually by a Colombian artist, and it's kind of a softer song. Every other song is not that memorable. Like the first time I watched it, I've only watched it one time, but I've heard the record over and over and over because my kids actually liked it, and so. But the first time I watched it, I walked out and I couldn't even remember a single song. Whereas when I walked out of Moana, I was singing the Shiny song, I was singing the Maui song, and I immediately wanted to hear that soundtrack over and over and over myself. And then Coco, who doesn't remember,
Remember me.
Anyways, long story short, story for me really suffered. They had way too many characters. So they were not aware of the fact that if you have a character surrounded by tons of other characters, it's going to eat away at the importance of every little interaction. And then the main character goes off on their journey, and one scene later, they're back from their journey. And you're like, wait, that was the journey? No, there's another journey. Oh, there's multiple little journeys. It's just not well done.
What else happened in 2021, Berto?
What else did happen? Let's see. I bought a new guitar for the first time in a long time. I bought a custom-made guitar, which I recorded all the songs for the 13-year anniversary. All but one, actually.
We had a 13-year anniversary show.
Oh, we had a 13-year anniversry.
That we did
I'm burying the lead.
Other things happened 2021 are the Pandora Papers.
Wait, was that the Panama thing? No.
Yeah.
But I thought that was like 5 years ago.
No, that's this year. So it was, if you don't know, it was a leak of information that exposed a bunch of hidden offshore accounts by people from all over the world, hundreds of politicians, billionaires, celebrities, drug dealers, royal family members, and leaders of religious groups, exposing that especially the celebrity, because you figure a Forbes billionaire, they have offshore accounts, but you have politicians and religious groups leaders who have like all this money secretly hidden away that does not make them look good, and somehow that just got completely blown over.
Okay, but dude, here's what I'm not understanding, and I'm really weirded out by this. I thought that initially the news about Pandora Papers came out several years ago. Am I insane? Am I just making up something in my head?
Yeah, you're making something up in here.
That's crazy.
There have been other leaks of information, but not this one.
No, this was about Panama and about... Okay, this is a Mandela effect. Now I'm a believer in the Mandela effect.
NFTs became a thing this year, a popular thing this year.
Oh, yeah.
Berto, what are NFTs?
Non-fungible tokens. They are basically, you grab anything like a digital song or an image or whatever, and what you do is you attach to it a blob of code, if you think about it. And this blob is essentially a crypto token. And what that means is it's not something that someone else can fake, because the technology doesn't exist to fake. The math required to fake it is not possible with today's computers. So when you have this song, I can say, hey, Kirk, I'm the only one who owns this copy of this original song by some artist. And you're like, oh, I don't believe it. But if I have that crypto token, that NFT, attached to it,
even though everyone else has access to the song,
same bits, other than the NFT bits itself.
But you're going to sell me a very specific version.
Yeah. I mean, it's even weirder with the images.
It's like if you took "Let It Be" by the Beatles and just made a unique version of it, but not unique in terms of the song, but unique in terms of like a hidden encrypted code at the bottom of the whole file, right?
Right. So look, I'm going to do this right now. We're going to make an NFT of our little of our photo here. So I'm going to go snippet. Yeah, I'm going to grab a screenshot of us right here. And then later, I won't do it on air, but later I'll send you an NFT token that's this image. No one else can have this image ever, except they can. They can make an exact copy of the image. It just won't be the same one. It's bizarre, but it's a little bit like modern art or like selling art. You can have a photocopy of something, but actually this is worse because the photocopy isn't exactly the same painting.
So here's my very layperson take on it. One is that art is art and rarity is rarity. If you told me that you had 100% assuredness that you could sell me or the Beatles wiped their head during one show with this rag.
Right.
And it was just some dirty old looking stupid rag, and it was in a case that was framed.
It's still worth money.
I would pay a lot of money for that thing.
Yeah.
Who cares? You know what I mean? It doesn't have any inherent value.
I know.
And to someone else that doesn't even, or I guess in a more personal thing, if we had my notebook or my notes from our very first episode, which I'm sure I don't have, but let's say that I did. Let's say I had because I had my clipboard. I always had my clipboard back then. Let's say that I had those notes and I framed it. There would be someone on this podcast, list that would pay, $10 for that thing or whatever, who know in this small community, and to the rest of the world, they would say, why would you spend any money for that? I don't understand why you. And so, rarity and value is, it's very relative. So there's that. But the other thing I think is going on here, which I think, it's fine. It'll enter the digital world, that kind of, I don't know, human tendency. But I think that the NFT thing is in riding on the coattails of cryptocurrencies as they shot up in value,
Yeah.
And because there was a time when Bitcoin came out. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't one Bitcoin $1 when it first came out?
It was way less than $1. It was way less than $1. It was like sub-cents.
And now it's like $50,000 per Bitcoin or something.
Yeah.
And so and Bitcoin's been out for what, 15 years or something? It's been out for a long time.
Something like that, yeah.
And so, for the first 10 years that Bitcoin was out, like everyone was like, huh? Or most people, even tech people were
either you hadn't heard of it, or if you had, you were like, what? No.
You were like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Or even if you were given Bitcoin in a situation, to be like, well, who cares? There's countless stories like, and because it's not going to take off. And then in the last 5 years, it actually took off because people actually started to consider it to have value.
That's right.
In the same way that we as Americans consider dollar bills to have a value, the world decided that Bitcoin had value. And so it started to shoot up, in price very dramatically. And so there are all these people that feel like they were left behind, that they didn't see it they had, because think if we could rewind the clock back 7 years, Berto, and we knew what was going to happen, we would have bought up, 10 Bitcoin and been able to retire early.
That's right.
And so there's this frantic, it's sort of like Black Friday. There's this frantic effort of just like, well, I don't want to be the one to miss out. And I think NFTs kind of, I think a lot of people are, someone creates an NFT and they'll be like, oh, that's the next big thing.
Yeah.
When it probably won't be the next big thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because the same kids, I'll call them kids. Yeah, okay. When MP3s came out and Napster came out, I was railing against it. I'm like, oh, don't you have any respect for like the artists and like they need to get paid and all of you're just all pirating everything. And I would get in these long arguments with my friends and with my younger brother and everyone basically. Like I'd be like, why are you copying MP3s? And then usually the justification was like, I've bought a lot of CDs in my life. I deserve these MP3s. And now the weird thing is the kids that would have in those years been like, well, music should be free. We should not have, all that stuff. Now they're like, oh, no, we should have to pay exorbitant amounts of money for little tiny, very copyable digital things. And the reason is because I might make money out of it.
Right. Yeah. I think it's this, it's sort of like what was the GameStop thing? It's like,
it's
all about money.
Stocks.
It's all about money. Yeah. People are like figuring out ways to, one way to put it is tricking the public into making you lots of money. Another way is just like doing what all capitalists do, and it's just like creating buzz around something, and then you create a lot of money. And I think NFTs in general are that way. Now, I could be wrong. In 10 years, NFTs could be like in every household, but I just don't think. I think there's a huge difference between currency, like a world currency like Bitcoin, and rare art things. Like I don't think everyone like deals in rare art things.
Right. Now, I do think NFTs as a tech is absolutely here to stay, because what's going to be possible is like in a virtual environment or augmented environment or in a video game, when you actually want to have a thing that is uniquely yours, it's really easy for hackers to like copy things, but to regulate a virtual economy in one of those environments, it becomes really useful to have a provable, 100% provable way to say, no, this thing belongs to this player or this person.
That's interesting. Yeah, I could see that because there has been that for 20 years now. Like in the old Evercrack days, if you had a special sword or armor or something, you could sell it on the market for thousands of dollars. And I remember people when they'd first hear it, because there'd be people who would make a living off of grinding away at EverQuest or World of Warcraft or something. They would acquire something legitimately and then they'd sell it to rich guys who don't want to grind that much,
Right.
And there'd be news reports about that, like, wait, so you bought a suit of armor that's in a game for thousands of, why would you do that? So I could absolutely see in a virtual world where you have like your mansion all decked out and you want like the one Banksy that exists,
right?
And you can actually bring people over and go, look, this is the one Banksy that's in this world.
Yep.
And no one else can copy it, then I guess that does kind of say something.
Exactly. And so there is that. Now, what I do think is there is definitely a bubble that is presently there. It's true. I think it's true of crypto too, because not all cryptos can succeed. I mean, there's hundreds, maybe thousands now of different crypto coins. They're not all gonna succeed, right? That's impossible. And the other thing that everyone, of course, is aware, or I would think is aware of, is we're not all gonna be trillionaires because we bought Bitcoin. Like that's not gonna happen. Some people will get lucky because they basically bought their lotto ticket early enough, and others won't. It's a little bit of a pyramid scheme in that sense. And when I say others, the vast majority of us will not have reaped $1 billion from this thing. But what is fair is that the tech is real, and until quantum computers or something else can crack the math required to duplicate these things, it is actually useful. Now, there is a downside. I think about Bitcoin, how it uses so much energy.
I know.
It's super bad for the world.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Right. Yeah, it's unless we figure out a way to have energy that is clean.
Yeah.
Then it really, I mean, eventually, again, like you said, with quantum computing, I mean, I guess what they would do is they would just change the rules of Bitcoin to make it more cycles per second, right? Required.
Well, if you had quantum computing, then you would have to have some other, who knows, some other math that blah, blah, blah. But the good news for now is that all you and I need to do is make pictures of ourselves and sell them as NFTs and intend. Oh, actually, no, not sell them. No, we sell them to each other and hold them for 10 years, and then we're billionaires. That's what we do.
That's how it works. Other 2001 news stories: the Suez Canal, the Ever Given ran aground. You remember that?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That was this year.
Yeah, and that created supply chain problems, which are still a thing, by the way. There's still massive supply chain problems. For example, I am trying to get a new heater for my house because the old one broke, even though it was brand new, and I was going to get it installed a couple months ago, and they were supposed to install it like a long time ago, but there's supply chain problems, and so I don't get a heater, and so we're trying to make do in our house with all these like other solutions. Many other world events, too many to mention really. There's civil war in Ethiopia, which is really awful. We have a coup in Myanmar. We have protests in Thailand against the military. The military in Burma has been allegedly killing their own people. We have how many mass shootings in the U.S., Berto? Number.
Defined as what, 3 or more or something?
Hundreds. It's not defined by deaths, because you can actually have a mass shooting that has no deaths. I think it has to do with like a shooting.
How many targets?
It's a shooting that is like not, because there are murders where I hate my neighbor, I'm going to kill him, and say you kill all 3 of the neighbors.
We probably had 500 or something.
Exactly, about 500.
Really?
Mass
wow.
How many dead? And how many injured?
Oh, geez. Okay, I'm going to say like 1,000.
Only 500. Well, only.
Okay.
But in terms of...
Yeah.
Because some mass shootings have no deaths, and the average apparently is 1. And 2,000 injured. The biggest one was in Boulder, Colorado. 10 people died in March.
And there was just one in Detroit like yesterday or something.
Interesting. Well, I mean, on average, there's 2 a day.
Yeah.
Or 1.5 a day. Things from our life, Berto. I didn't really talk about this, but I have it in my notes that it was so great to see my family for Mother's Day, for Father's Day, for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. My family, we're very traditional in that we always get together, same time, do the same thing, and the pandemic was really hard. I moved this year, which was extremely annoying and difficult, but a step up. And I had to completely redo my recording studio, which I'm still kind of dealing with. How many episodes do you think I produced this year, Berto?
Wow. So I'm going to go, let's see. I'm going to say like 100 episodes.
900 episodes.
Oh wait, no, sorry. I'm so dumb. I was multiplying weeks by 2, but I meant to multiply days by 2. So I would have said 600.
Yeah. 600. So about 900. Yeah. So 750 videos and 150
That's insane.
plus podcasts. Yeah. I quit Antioch full time, which is a big deal. I added my supervision practice and my mentoring, and So closures in Seattle. Actually took a fair amount of time today looking up all the restaurants that closed in Seattle.
Oh, during the pandemic?
Yeah, which I did not know. I mean, I knew about Beth's. I actually posted about this on Instagram. And I'm just going to rattle through these because, of course, most listeners aren't from Seattle, but I just have to honor these losses. Borrachini's, which had been there for 100 years in near it's And
for 100 years.
Yeah, it's an Italian shop down there.
That's
and
sad.
I used to go there all the time. I used to live right up the hill on Beacon Hill. Dahlia Lounge, Brave Horse, and Coco, which are Tom Douglas places, they all closed. All places that I loved going to, particularly Coco. But Dahlia Lounge, to me, I mean, these are a lot of places I'm guessing you don't know that much about, Berto.
I know Dahlia Lounge.
Oh, okay. But to me, Dahlia Lounge maybe was one of the first Tom Douglas restaurants in Belltown. And I always thought of Dahlia Lounge, because back in the day, in the 90s in Seattle, there wasn't a lot of fancy things, not like there are today. There were just a few fancy kind of New Yorky feeling restaurants, and Dahlia Lounge was one of those restaurants. And
is Dahlia Lounge where a lot of people did cocaine?
I don't know why.
I don't know. I had heard at some point that a lot of people did cocaine there.
Oh, well, you mean restaurant workers?
No, at like the bar area or something.
Huh.
Who knows?
Is that from a friend of ours that would probably do cocaine in a lot of places?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm guessing wherever they went, there was a lot of cocaine that was happening. Anyway, Neon Boots, which was, you and I have been there. It's actually right next to Rendezvous. It'd only been there a couple years anyway, so.
Wait, what kind of food?
Sandwiches, I think. Luisa's Mexican restaurant on Holman, which
no way.
Was a kind of a mainstay up there by Dick's. Tim's Tavern on 105th, which I'm guessing you haven't been to, but I have. Copal, which was a Mexican place in Pioneer Square. That only been there, I think, 10 years. But here's the kicker, Berto. Jules Mays Saloon.
What?
That you and I have played at this bar. It's I didn't realize this. It's been there for 132 years. It closed.
And it closed?
Yeah. The Brooklyn downtown. Local 360, which I would go to all the time. I loved Local 360.
Oh, my goodness.
Pink's Toe, Belltown, tapas place. Great place. Bastille. You and I have been to Bastille.
Wow.
We actually went there on Bastille Day one year. Remember that? That's when we came up with Shashwa She Said.
Shashwa.
Did you
I don't remember being there in Bastille Day. That's interesting.
Yeah, we went there with Ron and.
Yeah, no, I remember being there with Ron, but that's funny.
Purple, the wine bar, it closed. The Steelhead Diner in Pike Place.
Wait, which Purple? Just Purple the chain, or just one of them?
I think the chain, if not the one in downtown. If not the one downtown. I think there's only a few of them. Anyway. Choco Canyon Cafe, a vegan place that I actually...
Oh, I like that place.
Yeah, it was really nice. It was one of the kind of, if not the first fully vegan restaurants in Seattle that I remember back. Biscuit Bitch. Have you ever been to Biscuit Bitch?
I don't know if I have.
They had a great spam biscuit. Feierabend. Do you remember this place? It's a German place. This was a great German, like, you could get a beer in a giant boot. Like a giant glass.
Where was this place?
What do you call? What is that neighborhood called? It's between Belltown and Pill Hill, by REI.
Oh, okay. I think I know the place. Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd brought you there.
I feel like, didn't we go there after Mars Bar or something?
Probably, yeah. There was a time when I went there often.
We did. Yeah. I remember we went to
They had like pretzels and
yes.
Tilth, which was in Wallingford. It was a restaurant in a house that I'd been to. But here's another one that's really hard: is Collagen Pub, which is this pub in a basement in the U District that I would go to all the time and play cards with Bob. Anyway, there's many other places, but if you're from Seattle, you probably have at least heard of some. All these, I go to a lot of places in Seattle, and I've lived in Seattle my whole adult life, and so a lot of these places I went to so many times. Beth's, Local 360, Feierabend, Collagen Pub, Jules Mays, Dahlia Lounge, Borrachini's. I mean, these places are, it's like half of the places that are near and dear to my heart are closing, you know? So it's, it's a big, and of course, the people who own these places, I'm sure, are quite sad about it. But anyway.
Yeah.
So
I feel like, isn't Bastille close to where?
It's in Pike Place.
Oh, it's in Pike Place. Okay. Because I'm looking at pictures and I'm like, yeah, I remember this place. Is it in that little road, one street up?
It's an alley. It's
in the alley, right? Yeah.
on Bastille Day, they would have a big festival in the alleyway there. And, anyway.
Now I remember. I remember now being there with you on Bastille Day.
Shashwa, yeah. So movies. I made a list of all the movies that I saw that came out in 2021, and I thought I'd just go over those. Berto, what do you say?
Let's do it.
So M. Night Shyamalan came out with a movie called Old.
So I want to see this. I know I heard bad things, but I still want to see it. And isn't he about to come out with another movie?
I think so. I gave it a 3 out of 10. The first, I don't know, 20 minutes are kind of interesting, but it pretty quickly just goes completely off the rails. I mean, like his movie.
So disappointing.
His movie about the elevator. What was that one called?
Yeah, Hell or Devil. Devil, I think.
Like, that's it's not an amazing movie, but it keeps to its premise, and it's tight and suspenseful. Old, it takes all these twists, and you're like, huh? Anyway.
I'm going to have to watch it because, I really enjoyed, what was the one with the grandparents, and no one even knew it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie till the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That was good. And then the first Split, like whatever, was it called Split? Right?
Yeah, Split.
That was good.
Yeah. Although very stigmatizing to people with DID.
Yeah, fair enough.
I saw the Nick Cage movie, Pig. Did you see this?
No, I want to see that.
So it's interesting. It's about a recluse hermit, Nick Cage, who has this pig, and this happens early in the movie, but the pig gets kidnapped. And
then it's basically like John
Wick, but with a pig. Yeah.
With a pig.
But it's set in Portland, Oregon, and there's not a lot of violence. It's not like John Wick. It's more, I don't know what. It's interesting movie. I gave it 6 out of 10. It's watchable, but it's not amazing. And people are talking about it like it was the best movie of the year, and I'm just like, it's kind of interesting.
I had heard it was really good.
It's well written, but the storyline is, I don't know. I gave it 6. One of the best movies of 2021, Together, with Ed Helms and Patty Harrison.
Is that a comedy or something?
Yeah. It's I don't know how to describe it. I would say comedy-ish.
Okay.
Drama, comedy. I gave it 8 out of 10. Really good. I saw a Steven Soderbergh movie, No Sudden Move. It's about 1950s gangsters. Gave it 7 out of 10.
Oh, yeah. I want to see that one.
It's interesting. It's the ending, it's not amazing.
Okay.
But it's interesting. Dune, of course, Denis.
Oh, yeah. Dune Part 1.
Villeneuve. I gave
great.
7. I was thinking about bumping it up to an 8. I mean, really
I thought
great.
You had bumped it up already.
Yeah. I mean, I think if this was the first Dune I'd ever seen, I'd probably give it a 10. But I'd already seen, I still like the David Lynch version. I've seen the Sci-Fi Channel version. And so to me, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're hitting on all the storyline, and you changed it a little bit. And
because when you and I walked out of it, we were both somewhat underwhelmed because maybe we expected more, and I didn't even know it was only half the story.
Yeah.
But I feel like we talked later, and both of our feelings increased.
I just don't know what Denis Villeneuve could have done more. I mean, he made it.
Yeah.
He gave this story. It'd sort of be like if someone else made another Lord of the Rings, and it was visually more interesting, but they hit all the story beats. I'd be like, okay, you told the story again. I know
Good
this.
Good job.
But one of my favorite movies from last year is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That wasn't. Oh, wait, I didn't see it. That was the recut, right?
Yeah, the recut.
And it's like 4 hours long.
Oh, you haven't watched it?
I haven't watched it.
Oh my God, Berto.
I've only seen the original.
The original is a train. Well, the original's okay.
It's okay, but
you and I were like,
it.
Yeah, people hated it, but you and I were like, yeah, it's a 5 or a 6 or something. But I give Zack Snyder's Justice League a 9 out of 10.
Really? I want to watch it.
It fills in
Did
all the.
Did you tell me it was good? I
think I did. But
4 hours, okay.
But my favorite movie from last year, 2021, Bo Burnham Inside.
Oh, right. I forgot about that whole thing.
Loved it. Yeah.
What about Get Back?
Oh wait, I didn't rate Get Back.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's an 8-hour movie.
I have to go to Get Back, IMDb. Let me rate it. I will give that an I'm going to give it an 8. Qualified 8 because I feel like
it's its own thing.
I feel like people should skip the second one. No Time to Die, I gave a 7. Directed by a fellow Japanese American guy, Fukunaga. But one of my favorite movies, Finch with Tom Hanks, 9 out of 10.
What is that? Finch?
You and I watched that at your house, goofball.
Is that the robot one?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot it was called Finch.
I love that.
It's called Finch?
I know, it's such a bad name.
I would have never remembered that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was actually good. Yes.
Black Widow, I gave a 3. I think it was
I didn't see it.
I think it was the context in which I watched it. I feel like people that I respect really liked it, and I need to rewatch it. Recently watched Being the Ricardos with Stacy. I gave that a 6 out of 10. It's fine. It's not amazing.
What about The Green Knight?
The Green Knight, I gave a 2 because I hated it.
Really? Oh, I like The Green Knight.
I thought we talked about this.
We did talk about it. I just forgot you gave it a 2. Jeez, yeah. I liked it.
I mean, the first half an hour, I was intrigued. Stacy hated it right from the beginning. She didn't let on. It wasn't until we walked out and we compared notes. We're like, yeah, that was pretty. But she said she didn't get into it. But I got into it. When I hear people talk about how much they like it, I'm like, okay, yeah, because it's certainly shot well. It's interesting look. But
I wouldn't put it up with some of the other A24. Is that what it's called? But I really did enjoy it. I thought it was fascinating visually and story. I didn't know the story of Sir Gawain and stuff like that. So for me, it was pretty interesting.
The Many Saints of Newark, 8 out of 10.
I forgot we watched that. That was fun. So much hate. So many people didn't like it.
I loved it. 8 out of 10. Yeah,
I loved it.
But perhaps my second favorite movie of last year, The French Dispatch, Wes Anderson, 9 out of 10.
Oh, I still haven't seen it.
It's really good.
Well, the problem is I can't convince people to watch it because I'm like, hey, we should watch The French Dispatch, and there's always like other things people want to watch.
You gotta really pay attention because
maybe I'll watch it by myself.
Yeah, I would just sit, no distractions, because of all Wes Anderson movies, this one is so fast. The scenes are changing so quickly that you have to be paying attention.
Okay.
I really liked Chloe Zhao's other movie, other than Nomadland, Eternals, the MCU.
Oh, we loved Eternals, remember?
Yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
People I feel like people are hating on it.
Yeah. Other MCU products, Loki, the TV show, and WandaVision, I both gave a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the TV stuff.
I mean, I liked Loki and WandaVision. WandaVision, the second half of the season, I was like, ho-hum. The first half, I was pretty gripped. Loki, I was interested the whole way through. I don't know, maybe I should bump Loki up to a 7, because I think I liked it better than I think I did.
What about Antlers?
I didn't see it.
This is a horror movie about like this Oregon, small town in Oregon, and some very weird stuff is happening. But even though it's supernatural, it's also about abuse. Like it's a really good allegory about abusive family and stuff like that.
Interesting.
So I know you don't like horror, but I think from that abuse angle, it might be interesting for you.
Yeah, you said that before about what was that one movie?
Hereditary?
That I was like, eh.
Fair enough.
Stowaway with Anna Kendrick. It's about space stuff. I actually like that. I gave it an 8 out of 10.
I don't know that one.
It has questionable science in it, but I remember liking.
Oh, No Time to Die.
I already said that. 7 out of 10.
Oh, I forgot that was a Bond movie. So when you said No Time to Die, I must have thought there was... Okay, for me, didn't I give that an 8? I think I gave it an 8.
I think you gave it a 9 or 8.5.
Or 9, yeah. I loved it.
Your brother gave it like a 11-point orgasm or something.
Right.
Matrix Resurrection. Have you seen it yet, Berto?
No, I now don't. I feel like maybe I don't want to see it, but
I gave it a 3 out of 10. The first half, I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. There's a lot of you have to be pretty familiar with the first 3 movies, I have to say, to understand even.
Which is part of the reason I haven't seen it, because I need to go back and rewatch 2 and 3, because I sort of remember 2. I couldn't tell you almost anything about 3.
Well, what I'll say is that my take on Matrix Resurrection is that it's too many things are happening. There's too many. It's sort of like Episode 9, Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's like someone, Lana Wachowski, she sat down and she's like, how can I do as much fan service as possible? And then eventually she just forgot about the story. You know what I mean? Because like the story of Matrix Resurrection is like, it's so jumbled. I mean, I will say the main story beats, like the climax of the movie that involves Trinity, actually, it made me cry. I mean, it was, it's a pretty powerful moment, but the rest of the movie, I'm like, and I've watched the first 3 Matrix movies, a lot, especially 1 and 2. I think 1 is awesome. 2 is actually pretty good. I think 3 is, I've watched it a few times. Yeah.
I liked 2 okay. No, I liked 2 fairly well when I first saw it. When 3 came out, it made 2
right
less of a movie for me.
It's like with Star Wars Episode 9. Like I loved 8. Yeah. And then when I saw 9, I rewatched 8 and I was like, yeah, 8 sucks too. But anyway, 3 out of 10. It was, it's, I would watch it, but I would. Another movie, Violet, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Actually, Bob and I are doing a review of that movie soon.
Violet, what's that about?
It's interesting. So Justine Bateman, Jason Bateman's sister, from main thing I know her from is from Family Ties back in the day. Did you watch Family Ties back in the day?
Oh,
with Michael J. Fox.
Definitely.
His sister, Justine Bateman.
Yep. She's Jason Bateman's sister.
I know. I just said that.
From the show.
Are you listening to anything?
from what's it called? Arrested
Development. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Olivia Munn stars in it, and it's supposed to be kind of autobiographical, but it's really interesting because it uses cinema to emulate what it is like to have like insecurities. And so Olivia Munn's going through her life, and then these voices start entering her head. She's not delusional or schizophrenic. It's just those like shame voices that you have in your mind, and it was pretty interesting. But a really great movie, Berto, that you have to watch with your kids is Sing 2.
Oh, yeah, no, duh. Like, I didn't know it was out already.
Did you see Sing 1?
Oh, we love Sing 1.
Sing 2 is so good.
Oh, no, of course. Doesn't it have Bono in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It has
you
all
don't
the
have
original.
to. You're like preaching to the Sing choir.
It's so good. I mean, so a tradition in my family is to see a movie on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
And so we saw that, and I was crying.
Is it on
even
demand?
during parts when it's not? I don't think so. Even during parts,
in the theater. Okay.
Yeah. Even in parts when you're not supposed to be crying, I was crying.
I definitely want to see it. Yeah.
Shang-Chi, I gave it 8 out of 10. Pretty good movie. I liked it.
I mean, you remember in Sing, like the once there was a way to get back homeward. I mean, it's such a good. And then they had an Elton John cover of what is it? I'm Still Standing.
Yeah.
And my little girl, like that became her favorite song for a long time.
Shang-Chi, I gave 8 out of 10. Judas and the Black Messiah, I gave 8 out of 10. I like Shaka King.
Yeah, we watched. So isn't Shang-Chi the one we watched?
Yeah.
That's fun. That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. The ending is a little typical MCU.
Sure.
Cartoony.
Yeah, but it was still fun.
Yeah. The last movie that I just watched the other night with Stacy, and everyone's talking about this is going to win all the awards at the Oscars. Power of the Dog with Cumberbatch. Have you seen this movie, Bert?
No, I haven't even heard of this.
I gave it a 1 out of 10. I hated this movie.
Power of the Dog?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to watch it and see what I give it.
So
is it what's the theme or?
So it's a Western.
Okay.
And Cumberbatch is this asshole brother, and there's no plot. They're just on this ranch place, hotel-y place, and there's this kid who's a teenager who is being bullied by Cumberbatch, and nothing happens, and then at the very end something happens, And everyone online is talking about, oh my God, the twist. Did you catch all the signs of the thing? And I'm like,
all right.
I'm like, yeah, I caught the twist. It's not even a twist. I wouldn't call it a twist. I would call it the movie happened. I would call it the only plot that happens in the entire, when you have nothing to grab onto for the first 2 hours of the movie.
Okay, and then now I've got to watch it.
And then something happens in the last 5 minutes that I have to tell you was so boring to me. It was like, all right. I kept waiting like, okay, there must be something after this. And then the movie just ends. And I'm like, my God,
maybe because you've sold it so little, now I'm going to love it.
Well, I'd be curious what you think about it. But I think that I just don't understand. It's one thing for me not to like a movie, right? It's just like I watch a movie and I'm like, not for me. It's another thing when I'm going to call this the Roma syndrome or the Roma phenomenon.
Oh, but Roma was good.
Where everyone loves a movie, critics and audiences, 90+% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I am like, I hated. Not only did I just kind of but Roma I hated. The Lighthouse I absolutely hated.
Well, but I didn't like The Lighthouse either.
Power of the Dog.
You've got Friend in Me.
Power of the Dog. That's the trifecta of movies.
No, you can't put Roma together. Well, I haven't seen Power of the Dog, but Roma was a good movie. My opinion matters.
But I'm saying for me, I hated these movies. Now, Roma, of all the movies that I just listed, Roma is the most watchable because it's kind of interesting. Power of the Dog, totally uninteresting. Lighthouse, totally uninteresting.
Boring.
Yeah. And so, but people talk about it like, and I'm thinking, is this a generational thing? Is it, because I wonder if I was 25, because there were movies like David Lynch movies. I remember people talking about like, I don't understand why you like David Lynch movies. I'm like, oh my God, David Lynch is the best. And I wonder if a certain train has left the station for me, and
could be.
I just can't enjoy things that now before, and I always have.
But if we watched Mulholland Drive today, fresh, you're telling me we wouldn't like it?
No, which I have. Oh, for the first time.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a good question, but I don't know the answer. But I want to say that there are movies that are, like Eternals, for example.
Yeah.
It's considered to be the most artistic of all the MCU movies, and it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Finch, for example. There's no shoot 'em up. It's pretty contemplative.
Yeah.
I gave it a 9 out of 10. Bo Burnham Inside, you know what I mean? Dune, I loved. There's movies.
Bo Burnham.
That's a different kind of thing.
And it's a Gen Z kind of movie.
Yeah. But Green Knight is another movie like this that I couldn't stand, and yet it's a very contemplative, artsy thing, and so. But I also want to point out that there are a lot of those kinds of movies that I love that other people don't like. Boyhood, for example, is a very
I love Boyhood.
A lot of people hated, but I loved.
Hey, did you watch Old Henry this year?
No.
I wonder how you would feel about it. It's a Western. It takes place in 1905 or something. It's kind of slow. It's got action towards the last part of it. In fact, the action is sort of my least favorite part, but it's still fine.
It's got Stephen Dorff.
Yeah, I didn't even recognize him at first, but I would recommend you watch it and let me know what you think. Old Henry.
Yeah, so I just don't know. I feel like when Roma came out, I was like, well, everyone's stupid. When Lighthouse came out and everyone liked it and I hated it, I'm like, everyone's stupid? And then now with Power of the Dog, I'm like, oh, there's something wrong with me.
But wait a minute. Look, okay, the reason I feel like Roma and Lighthouse don't belong in the same category is because Roma does have a plot and things do happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Lighthouse is plot devoid.
Another movie that's in this category is the Charlie Kaufman movie that I hated.
Wait, was that the one I liked? No, wait, which one?
You and Colin liked it.
Which one was that?
It's in the snowstorm and the
snowstorm. Yeah, right. I did like it. You're right. That's true.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Other stuff I've watched this year a lot I've watched a lot of Friends. So Nickelodeon plays, I think, at least whatever channel Stacy puts it on cable TV, it's all SpongeBob during the day and it's all Friends at night. It's just back every night. They're not on a Friends marathon. That's all they play.
That's all they play. And
so when Stacy veges out at the final hour before she goes to sleep, she always puts on Friends. And so I've seen a lot of Friends. I've seen more Friends in the last year than I ever saw when it was out.
Oh man.
Because it's kind of interesting for me in TV, because I watched a lot of TV growing up. And then once I hit high school, I stopped watching TV because I was just doing stuff with people all the time.
Yeah.
And we had 2 TVs in the house. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And so then when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was either too busy or couldn't afford a TV or cable.
Yeah.
And then in my 50s, my 40s, sorry, that's when I really started to watch TV. And so there's this huge kind of dark
gap
zone of American culture, even news-wise. I remember people would say, well, you know, that thing that happened this year, and I'd be like, huh? Anyway.
I was never much into Friends, though, because, sure, I caught several of the episodes, but that style of humor, it just never did it for me.
Yeah, I mean, rewatching it, it's not amazing. It's watchable, in my opinion. The show that I cannot watch is Seinfeld. I mean, that show is...
Which is weird, because that kind of humor is definitely for me.
Seinfeld, I'm like, I don't know. It's just...
That's so odd. So you will watch Friends, but you don't do Seinfeld.
Well,
like Curb.
I'm not going to... I like the first 3 or 4 seasons of Curb. I watched another episode of Curb that just came out recently, and I couldn't get through 4 minutes of it.
It's too random.
It's stupid. It's the same joke over. And we've talked about this before, but the first few seasons of Curb, there was some believability to it, you know?
Yeah.
Larry...
it's just him being Larry and his neuroticism and everything.
What's his last name? Larry David. There's plausibility, you know, like...
Yeah.
He'll go to the sandwich shop and they'll screw up the order or something. You know,
right.
And then there will be the clerk will get into an argument with him. And the first 3 seasons, they were all grounded in that's actually the thing I went through, or an exaggerated version. At a certain point, he ran out of premises to build his humor on, and
he got outrageous.
And it's like it's so out of nowhere. You're like, why is anyone doing... Everyone's an idiot on that show. Like, Larry David's an idiot, and the people he argues with are idiots. Like, no one is grounded in reality.
You're not wrong. I'm not going to say you're wrong. Now, I still very much enjoy it, because it's almost like as soon as I see Larry David, I start laughing. But I will say, It's Always Sunny has been outrageous from the moment it started.
True. And I feel like the latest... have you watched the latest season?
Not yet, no.
It's not good.
Oh, really?
I feel like this is the first time where I'm like, is this one season too far? Like, it's... I mean, maybe the first couple episodes
is it less
okay.
offensive? Is that why?
No, it's just not funny, you know? Like, I'm actually going back and rewatching old It's Always Sunny episodes, and they're still hilarious. I mean, there are some... Just like the Boggs episode when they're on the airplane. Like,
yes.
There's so many.
Some of the Sunny episodes are probably the most I have laughed at a TV show in my life.
Yeah. I'm rewatching The Americans again because it's amazing.
You've mentioned, so this is a show I have to make time to go back and watch.
You're just never going to watch it because I've been talking about it for years now.
No, but you're not the only person who has raved about it.
I'm working my way through Rick and Morty, and I will say that season 3... it really gets a lot better.
This is season 3 where he starts in prison.
I can't remember, but I think it's Pickle Rick season. The first couple seasons, especially the first season, I'm like, why is everyone freaking out about this show? I mean, it's fine. It's got some funny moments for sure, but what is going on with the fan base of the show? By the 3rd season, I get it, because it's such a rich, interesting world
and the jokes are happening so fast, and the premises are so layered, and the jokes and the callbacks are genius sometimes. I mean,
But ironically, a lot of the fans that you were puzzled by left starting in the third season, or started being grumpy in the third season.
Why is that?
Because they felt that the writing had changed. They were letting, I mean, you know, to give you an idea of the kind of fans we're talking about, they were saying because they were letting some of the female writers write, it was getting too PC-fied and too, you know, wussified. And
really?
So,
because I don't really see much difference between 3 and 2.
I do, but at the same time, I love it. I love season 3. I love season 4. I love season 5.
Like that episode where I think Rick is like, okay, spaceship, you know, his special spaceship.
Yeah.
Take care of Morty's sister. Don't let anything happen to her. And then some people come by, and then, you know, they're harassing her a little bit, like, hey, what are you doing here? And then the ship like just starts killing everyone, and she's like, don't do that. And then as this episode progresses, you know, it's just like this really
it's psychological torture.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's the one where they go into the world within the world within the world. Because Rick is like, well, I created a fusion thing, but the only way I could do it is to create a little universe. Right. And now, unfortunately, it's developed sentience, and so we have to go in.
Yeah,
and then the guy in there developed the same.
Yeah, I mean, those premises are just so good. Anyway,
it's so good.
I watch a lot of Arrested Development clips, 30 Rock
I've heard
clips,
about that show.
Parks and Rec clips. And I started Ted Lasso and was like, me and Stacey got a little distracted with other things, and we never went back to it. But I plan on finishing.
How many episodes have you watched?
2 or 3, I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh, we were hooked after episode 2. We've now finished all of season 1. I don't know what season 2 is like, but it's one of my favorite shows. Period. Like it's got such heart. It's so well written.
Huh.
Oh man. And I was in tears in some of the episodes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Yeah, I encourage you to try to get through it and pay attention, because that's another one where the jokes are very quick and subtle, because they'll say little weird one-liners and things, and it goes by really quick. Okay, so something I discovered online that's been out 15 years ago or 10 years ago or something like that. Did you ever watch On Cinema at the Cinema?
No.
Okay, so I just happened randomly on this thing. I can't believe I never heard of this. It was an Adult Swim thing, I guess, to begin with. It's these two dudes. It's supposedly it's a web series, webisodes where they review movies, and you know, it's like you and me. In fact, a lot of it reminds me of us. But they're terrible. They're horrible at their movie reviewing. It's clear that the main guy barely ever even watches the movies. He can never pronounce any one of the names. So the whole webisode is like this very, very like meta humor thing. And it's super awkward because like the two of them barely get along. So there's always like tension, and they always disagree with each other. Anyways, I'm kind of addicted. I'm like on season 4 on YouTube. Just been going through it.
That's funny. Deaths. Let's finish with those who have left this plane. So alphabetical order. Alan Coulter. You may know him as the announcer on Letterman. He died.
Oh.
In fact, Stacy had a scene so Stacy was a model for many years and an actress, and she worked primarily in New York. And they hired her. I actually have some clips.
I remember the clip on Letterman, right?
Yeah, well, she was on Letterman a few times.
Okay.
But in the episode with Alan Coulter, the Letterman announcer, she's in like this very skimpy bikini.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
little bitty bikini.
Albert Bandura, Canadian-American psychologist known for his social learning theory, died this year, 95, congestive heart failure. Very famous psychologist. Anne Rice, who people would know from Interview with the
Vampires?
Yeah.
She died? How old was she?
Recently just died. 80. She was 80.
Oh, wow.
Bernie Madoff, Ponzi
Right.
scheme guy, died, 82. Beverly Cleary. Do you know Beverly Cleary? A writer?
I heard she died, but
she 104. She died.
Wow, 104.
She wrote many kids' books, maybe other books, but I know her as a kids' book writer. And Runaway Ralph was a book that I have a few books behind me on my shelf that are from my childhood, and Runaway Ralph is one of them. I loved Runaway Ralph. It's a mouse who rides this motorcycle. He finds like this toy motorcycle, and somehow it works for him.
Really?
And he gets like I think a half of a ping pong ball or a shell and he uses it as a helmet, and he goes on all these adventures on this farm and stuff. I loved those books.
So I know why I knew the name, because she wrote Beezus and Ramona.
Okay, right.
And that my daughters love that series.
I think she might have also written Tales of the Fourth Grade Nothing, which I also read. Anyway, Biz Markie, rapper, died this year. 57, diabetes.
Wow. Wasn't that the, 'cause you think you're just a friend?
Right. Bob Dole, politician, died 98 years old, lung cancer. 98, I didn't realize he was that old. Charles Grodin, actor, died 86, cancer. Charlie Robinson from Night Court. Did you ever watch Night Court?
Yeah, I watched Night Court. That was fun.
So Charlie Robinson was the clerk.
Oh, okay.
Another person died from, two people died from that show this year. Actually, the woman attorney.
Oh, really?
She also died. Yeah, she's lower on the list though. Charlie Watts, Rolling Stones, died.
Man, I kind of blocked that. Yeah, right. I can't believe that. Yes.
Chick Corea, jazz pianist, died, 79, cancer. Christopher Plummer from The Sound of Music.
Oh, right.
Complications from a fall, 91. Yeah. Colin Powell, 87, died of COVID-19, even though he's vaccinated.
Yeah.
Dean Stockwell from Quantum Leap, died 85, natural causes.
And from Battlestar Galactica, right?
I don't know if he was on that, but he was in Dune.
He was in Dune. He was the betrayer Mentat.
Yeah.
And he was in Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, I don't remember him there.
Yeah.
D.T. Thomas from Kool and the Gang, died 70. DMX, the rapper, died of 50 of a drug overdose. Don LaFontaine, the In a World.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he died 68, complications from smoking.
Oh, man.
My friend Donna Mathis died 52 from a hemorrhage. I don't think you would have ever met her. She was from a long time ago.
So young.
And I've talked about that in an episode about her dying. Yeah. Dustin Diamond, Screech, died 44, cancer. Ed Asner from the Mary Tyler Moore Show died 91, natural causes. Did you ever watch the Mary Tyler Moore Show?
No, I did not.
I did as a kid. Eddie Mecca, he was Carmine in Laverne and Shirley. Did you watch Laverne and Shirley?
A couple episodes. I was a little too young.
My good. So for me and my family in the late 70s, the TV show for us was Laverne and Shirley. Well, it was Happy Days, and Laverne and Shirley was right after. And
was Laverne and Shirley a spin-off of Happy Days?
Yeah, it was a spin-off.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I remember watching it. I mean, it was funny, but I was too little, so didn't appreciate it.
Gavin MacLeod, who was Captain Steubing on another 80s show that I watched all the time, Love Boat.
Oh, wow.
He died 90, old age. Jerry of Jerry and the Pacemakers died 78, blood infection.
Oh, man.
Hank Aaron, baseball legend, died.
I didn't even know Hank Aaron was still around.
I know. I wouldn't have thought that he was. Died 86. Humpty Hump, rapper.
No way.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, 57.
What? From what?
Unknown. Yeah, so you got DMX, you got Biz Markie, and you got Humpty Hump. All died this year.
Oh, man.
Isaac Don Everly brother, died 84. Oh, Jessica Walter, the mom in Arrested Development, and also Archer's Archer's mom or Archer's boss?
Archer's mom. Yeah,
Archer's
and
mom.
boss. Archer's mom and boss.
Yeah, she died in her sleep.
Oh, wow.
80. Huge loss there. Joanne Rogers, Mr. Rogers' wife, followed Mr. Rogers into the afterlife. 92. Larry Flint died, Hustler creator.
Wow,
Heart failure, 78. Larry King, TV host, died of COVID, 87. Leon Spinks, boxer, prostate cancer, 67. Marky Post, she's the Night Court actress. So two of the main Night Court.
Wow.
Yeah. Michael Apted from... So did you ever watch the documentary Up series? The 7 Up, 14 Up, 21 Up?
You've talked about it many times, and so I know what it is, but I have not myself watched it.
I've been watching the series since the early 90s, and he just died this year. And he just after he released his most recent one, which is, I think, 64 Up. I'm not sure.
Is anyone going to continue?
It's a good question. Michael Collins, the third Apollo. So everyone knows about Buzz and Lance Armstrong, but no one knows about Michael Collins. He was in the other ship that was orbiting the moon.
Wow.
And he died of cancer in 90. Michael Nesmith of the Monkees died of heart failure.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he was the tall monkey. And and he his mom invented whiteout. And so he
really?
Yeah. I think
that's huge.
After he was on the show. Yeah. Michael K. Williams, actor. He was Omar in The Wire. He died of heroin
I forgot
overdose
he died.
And 54 years old. Norm Macdonald, cancer, 61.
Right.
Peter Scolari from Bosom Buddies, along with Tom Hanks. That was another show from my childhood that
I love Bosom Buddies.
That I worshipped. I mean, I could not get enough of Bosom Buddies. He died leukemia, 66. Phil Spector died of COVID, 81.
Wow.
Prince Philip died 99 years old.
Wait, didn't Phil Spector go to jail?
I don't know.
Murder charges?
Not something like that.
Yeah.
Richard Donner, the director, died 91. He directed The Omen, which you love.
Yes.
Superman, Goonies, Lethal Weapon.
Wow.
So a big figure.
Big loss, yeah.
Rush Limbaugh died lung cancer, 70. Siegfried of Siegfried and Roy died, 82, pancreatic cancer. Stephen Sondheim, musical composer, 91, cardiovascular disease. Tawny Katane. Do you remember Tawny Katane, American?
Yep.
From Here We Go Again on My Own.
That's
she died of unknown causes, 59. Trevor Moore.
Wasn't Tawny Katane in Mannequin? The movie?
I don't know. Trevor Moore, did you ever watch The Whitest Kids You Know?
No.
So I didn't watch it at the time because it was during one of those TV blackouts for me. But I have watched so much Whitest Kids You Know on YouTube, and Trevor Moore was the funniest. So there are 5 guys.
Were these like Kids in the Hall or the State or something?
Exactly. Yeah.
I see.
But they were like the latest iteration of that. You had Saturday Night Live, Monty Python, then you had the State, you had Kids in the Hall, and then Whitest Kids You Know was like, I guess, the 90s or aughts version of those people. But anyway, but Trevor Moore died 41 of an accident, they call it, but I think it might have been a drug overdose. But it's a pretty big loss because during the pandemic, the Whitest Kids You Know, the 5 guys in there, they would have been about 40 years old, would get together over Zoom and talk about old sketches.
Oh, wow.
And they would have like they would post it on YouTube, and I would watch them. And then, so I felt like during the pandemic, I just felt like I was a part of the Whitest Kids You Know community.
Right.
And then Trevor Moore, who was, I mean, I don't know if people would disagree with this, but I find Trevor Moore to be like definitely the standout comedian of that group. He just suddenly died. Yeah. And then Walter Mondale, politician, died 93 of natural causes. Famously, he ran with Ferraro, a woman running for the first woman running for vice president, paving the way for Kamala Harris. He won in a landslide election against Reagan in '84 because people loved Ronald Reagan back then, because it was everyone was in a American Psycho movie at the time, essentially. So that's a lot of people. That's not everyone, of course, but it's the notable ones I thought I'd talk about on the podcast.
I'll throw a name in there from my friends of my family. Mr. Bert Stibbe. He was, I think he was in his late 80s, and he died from cancer complications. And he was very important in my life because I've known him since I was 11. He was married to my mom's best friend, and he was always a good role model. German, he was born in Germany, moved here with his mom, and he was just a very well put together person. Always taught us, good lessons. I loved his stories. He would always have stories about his travels, and he knew so many things about history in so many places. And he was also a movie lover, so we would talk about movies and.
Really?
Yeah.
I met him in Colombia, I believe.
That's right, because you were there and they were there, and that's right.
Yeah. So that was a whole long list, but I think in conclusion of the In Memoriam is, for me, it's trite to say this, but it puts things in perspective. All the just regular, normal, everyday deaths, people in their 80s and 90s who die of natural causes, or cancer eventually catches up to people. And of course, the COVID deaths as well. Colin Powell, fully vaccinated, died COVID.
Yep.
It just makes me realize that the stupid shit that I worry about is meaningless in light of the transient nature of my life on this planet.
Indeed. I mean, we have at the same time days to live through, and sometimes the things we're worried about are sort of inevitable because of our mammalian human brain, but you got to enjoy the moments.
And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because
you deserve it.